السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بشر وأنذر لا خير إلا دل الأمة عليه ولا شر إلا حذرها منه فصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. نسأل الله جل وعلا أن يبصرنا بالحق وأن يمن علينا بالالتزام به والثبات عليه حتى يتوفانا وهو راض عنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وقلبا خاشعا وعملا متقبلا. اللهم اجعل تجمعنا هذا تجمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا شقيا ولا محروما. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we worship Him, we seek His assistance, we seek His tawfiq. We pray to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us that which is beneficial to us. And we pray to Him to give us the tawfiq to apply it. فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. اللهم فقهنا في الدين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Tonight is the night of the 30th of Rabi' al-Awwal for the year 1440 since Hijrat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which translates into December the 8th of the Gregorian calendar 2018. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to make this night a blessed night, to make all the brothers and sisters who are physically with us in this masjid or who might be tuning in live, I pray to Allah to make them mubarakeen in themselves and in their families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and bless our families and bless our time and our wealth. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to make this Majlis Mubarak, which is the 75th Majlis of commentary on this great text of Aqidah, Al-Aqidah At-Tahawiyyah. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to shower us with His mercy and to make our jaizah, our reward when we are done here, that it will be said to us, go for you have been forgiven. Allahumma ameen. Before we start with the commentary on Al-Aqidah, just a quick logistics if you wish. Next Saturday, there will not be a halaqah. I won't be able to come here, so it will be cancelled. As usual, I'll send a cancellation notice on the mailing list, but just wanted to give you a heads up that next Saturday there will be no halaqah, inshallah. With that said, obviously I commend those of you who have made the effort and the intention to come here and sit down with us. Wallahi, this commentary, alhamdulillah, this is by the tawfiq of Allah Azza wa Jal that we have come along where we are at. And I think, taking the time and sitting sincerely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal in these majalis to listen and improve your understanding of the Aqidah is one of the great things that you could do and invest your time in. As you see, and I hope that you started to feel this, that it's really impacting how you look at Islam, how you view certain matters, things that go in your life, go on in your life, things that you go through in your life. All of a sudden, with this sound understanding, things will look so much different. You look at them in a different way than the way that you used to do that. And this is why we always say, and we keep repeating, that Al-Aqidah is not theories, ink on paper, that has no relationship to our daily routine and daily life. On the contrary, it has to do a lot, as we can see. And this discussion of Al-Iman that we're going to do now, or continue inshallah, it has a lot of impact on our deeds and our understanding of what it is to say that I believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, that I believe in the deen of Islam. What is comprised under this iman and under this belief. Without further ado, قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى, statement number 138, Imam Abu Ja'far, the author of this Aqidah, he said, وَالْإِيمَانُ هُوَ الْإِقْرَارُ بِاللِّسَانِ وَالتَّصْدِيقُ بِالْجَنَانِ. And Iman is to affirm with the tongue and to believe with the heart. And obviously before that, we did already talk about the fact that Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they take a middle ground, right? They are in between hope and between fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we said both hope and fear are like the two wings of the bird, right? We cannot do with one or the other, right? Or only love of Allah Azza wa Jal. But every believer has to have fear of Allah Azza wa Jal and hope in Allah Azza wa Jal, in addition to love of Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is how we worship Allah Azza wa Jal. We worship Allah Azza wa Jal out of love to Him, out of fear from Him and His punishment, and out of hope in His reward and His acceptance of our forgiveness. Seeking forgiveness from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 138, or statement 138, is something that we already started last week. But this is inshallah where we're going to continue this very important topic of al-Iman and what it is. And we said this in here, in this statement, Imam Abu Ja'far is really giving a definition of what al-Iman in the Sharia terminology is, which is al-Iman that is required and mandatory of every Muslim to be a Muslim. What does it mean to say I am a believer? What does it take to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal? So al-Iman in this statement, Imam Abu Ja'far is saying that it is the affirmation of the tongue and it is the belief in the heart, or the tasdeeq of the heart. And we said that in this statement, he mentioned two things, and it is missing a third thing. This statement is not very accurate and is missing one thing compared to what Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah believe. And we did talk about the fact that respecting the A'imma does not mean that we follow them in their errors, nor pointing out that they made an error somewhere is disrespectful of them. That does not mean that, right? Saying that a certain imam made a mistake in a certain matter, right, is not disrespectful of the imam. And we said, if you remember last week, we did discuss the fact that this is one of the few places where Imam Abu Ja'far obviously is affirming the Aqidah of Imam Abu Hanifa Nu'man rahimahullah ta'ala. And he said that this is what Imam Abu Hanifa and both of his companions, Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Yusuf, they believe, right? This is what the set of beliefs that they have. And we said that this is one of the few items or few places where they did not accurately state the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And to be frank with you, I want to spend a minute or two to discuss this, because some people, and I know this could get emotional and some people could take an exception with this. How can you dare to say that Imam Abu Hanifa made a mistake? This is so disrespectful of him. So I want to address this just to clear that, so that I don't want this to cloud the reasoning and to cloud the mind of people, so that they would open their hearts and their eyes and their ears and listen in, right? This is no disrespect of Imam Abu Hanifa. As a matter of fact, this is the opinion of the rest of the A'imma of Islam. This is the opinion of Imam Ahmad and Imam Shafi'i and Imam Malik, that in addition to these two, the affirmation of the tongue and the belief of the heart, there's also the actions, al-amal, وَعَمَلٌ بِالْأَرْكَانِ, or عَمَلٌ بِالْجَوَارِحِ. And this is what we're going to reiterate and discuss even further, inshallah, tonight. So this is actually the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars of Islam. We did mention that Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, the Imam who collected Sahih al-Bukhari, right? He said he traveled and journeyed throughout the land of Islam, and he said he met more than 1,000 people of knowledge, Ahl al-Ilm. And he said all of them, they said, al-Iman qawlun wa amalun wa i'tiqad wa amal. So there is amal in there, which is missing in this statement. And he said, I did not take from anyone except if they said al-Iman qawl wa amal. He would not take from any person who would say otherwise. Second, we all know, it's no secret, everybody knows, that even the companions of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, they had in certain matters a different opinion, different than the opinion of Imam al-Madhab, Imam Abu Hanifa. They actually went with another opinion, different than the one that he held, rahimahullah ta'ala. Which means, I'm pretty sure it's obvious, I don't think it takes a lot of, it doesn't need to be explained, that this means when they go with another opinion, that means that they believe this is the correct opinion, which is different than the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. Yani this is al-ra'y al-rajih, which is the more stronger opinion, or that is more footed in the evidence, and the other opinion of the Imam is the weaker one. As a matter of fact, the commentator on this Aqidah, which we're using as the basis of this commentary, Imam Ibn Abi al-Izz al-Hanafi, right? Remember, we're using this as a basis of our commentary, Sharh. He is one of A'immat al-Madhhab al-Hanafi. And in his commentary, he mentioned something very interesting. He said that Imam Abu Yusuf, he debated with Imam Abu Hanifa for so long. ناظر الإمام أبو حنيفة مناظرة. He had over a period of time, a debate with Imam Abu Hanifa until Imam Abu Hanifa agreed with Abu Yusuf that whoever believes that the Quran is created is not a Muslim. Before, Imam Abu Hanifa did not hold that view. And Imam Abu Yusuf, he kept debating with him, bringing the evidence until Imam Abu Hanifa went back. So do we say that Imam Abu Yusuf was disrespectful of Imam Abu Hanifa? Not at all. Not at all. This is a respectful debate to reach that which they believe or they believed as haqq. And al-A'imma, all the time, they had debates and would not shy away from going back from their previous held opinion if they thought they were wrong and this is the correct opinion. They would go back and agree with the other side. There's nothing disrespectful in that. So we say even Imam Abu Ja'far At-Tahawiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, if you remember in the biography from the very beginning, we said he is one of A'immat al-Madhhab. Yani in principle, he is a Hanafi scholar. Yet, that did not mean that he followed blindly every opinion of the madhab. As a matter of fact, he had a different opinion in so many matters. Remember, we discussed this, where he actually expressed, even he said the statement, a very famous statement that became very famous in Egypt. I don't know if you remember this. I'm just trying to scratch your memory. He said, when he was asked, certain matters you're giving a fatwa different than what Imam Abu Hanifa did. And he said, absolutely. وَهَلْ يُقَلِّدْ إِلَّا غَبِيٌّ. And is somebody follow blindly, muqallid, you know muqallid, who follows blindly and he doesn't deviate at all. He's following the madhab from A to Z. Does a person does taqleed except if he is and I'm sorry for the word, but this is the exact translation, stupid. That's what he said. The Imam Abu Ja'far At-Tahawi. So all of this means that it is not disrespectful to say that based on the evidence, this is inaccurate. And I hope this clarifies once forever this, that we're not actually in the process, or we're not trying to disrespect anybody. On the contrary, but we're trying to reach that which is haqq bi'idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. So the Imam Abu Ja'far in this statement, he referred to two types of ibadat. Al-ibadah, which is al-iqrar, ibadat al-iqrar, which has to do with the tongue, which is the affirmation of the tongue, and ibadat al-tasdeeq, which is the belief in the heart. We say, like I said, we said that this is actually missing a component, which is al-amal. And al-amal is an inseparable part of al-iman. And we did mention that Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they had multiple ways of expressing al-iman. Some of them, they would say al-iman qawl wa amal, saying and deeds and actions. Or they would say qawlun wa amalun wa i'tiqad, it is actions and affirmation of the tongue and belief in the heart. And some of them would add niyyah, or which is intention, which is a reference to al-ikhlas and being sincere to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. But we said, regardless, all of them, they exactly mean the same thing, which is that al-iman is qawlun wa amalun wa i'tiqad, and it increases and decreases. Brothers and sisters, I want every person to remember this. I think by now, once we're done here, this is my expectation, that every person here or listening in live, watching live, that it should be very it should be very clear to them that what iman is. And if somebody asks you what iman is, you should be able to answer in less than 5 seconds. Less than 5 seconds, because it is 5 things. Iman is what? Qawl, amal, i'tiqad, yazid, wa yanqus. Didn't take even 5 seconds. 5 things, 5 words. Qawl, affirmation of the tongue. Amal, actions of the limbs and the organs. I'tiqad, which is the conviction of the heart. Yazid, it increases and decreases. Wayanqus, it can increase. This faith is not fixed. It can increase as well as it can decrease. It increases by the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. The more you do good, the more your iman elevates and goes up. And the more you sin, the more your iman goes down and sinks. Right? So this is what Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah believe. In 5 things. قَوْلٌ وَعَمَلٌ وَاعْتِقَادٌ يَزِيد وَيَنْقُص. And as a matter of fact, we did discuss last time, and I did have that in writing, which wasn't very clear. This is, hopefully it's clearer. I actually added to the slide what the 5 things that we just discussed. And if you remember, an easier way to remember this is to say there are 5 noons. You know harf al-noon? 5 noons, and which we wrote in here. And I don't know if you noticed this, I don't know if somebody noticed this, but I chose to actually write it in the Urdu script. I don't know, Abu Abdurrahman, can you tell that in here, in those 5 things you see in here, those 5 things, they are in the Urdu way of writing the letters. I was hoping that they will be easier to read. Did you notice that? You know, okay, all right. The font is different than the actual text of the Aqidah. I was hoping that this will make it easier. Did you notice that, Uncle? That they're in kind of like the Urdu way of writing the letters. Type. So there are 5 things we said. Let me just remove this. Type. So we wanted to actually say what the 5 noons are. The first one, 5 noon. You see this noon in here? I'tiqadul janan, the conviction of the heart. This is the first one. Second, I'm going to choose a different color. The second one is qawlul lisan. Noon, the expression of the tongue. The third one, عمل الجوارح والأركان. Sorry, I should actually do this way. Circle the noon. عمل بالأركان, which is actions of the organs according to the Sharia, doing the arkan in Islam, the duties of the deen. So this is actions of the organs. The fourth one, يزيد بطاعة الرحمن. And you may add ومعصية الشيطان. يعني it increases with the obedience of Allah and disobedience of the devil, shaitan. The fifth one, we say, which color we haven't used? Okay, let's do orange. The fifth one, وَيَنْقُصُ بِمَعْصِيَةِ الرَّحْمَنِ. This is the fifth noon. Decreases with the disobedience of Allah and obedience of shaitan and the desires. Clear enough? Easy, inshallah, right? Nothing exceptionally difficult about this. If this is something that you should have a sound understanding of, and this is something that you should be able to tell others. What is Iman? What do we mean by Iman? It is the conviction of the heart, expression of the tongue, actions of the limbs and the organs, according to the Sharia, obviously. And it increases with the obedience of Ar-Rahman, of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and disobedience of Shaitan. The fifth one, it decreases with the disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and obedience of Shaitan and the desires. 5 things. You should be able to explain, like I said, you should be able to explain or define this in 5 seconds. طيب. We say that Imam Abu Ja'far in here, like I said, is stating the way that Imam Abu Hanifa understood al-Iman, right? Which is to say, to limit it to only the tasdeeq of the heart and the expression of the tongue. And they said that al-amal is something outside of al-Iman, is not part of al-Iman, is not an integral part of it, and it is something that is in addition to it. Although, just out of fairness and out of completeness, it doesn't mean that they believe that the deeds are not important, right? But rather, they still said, although they did not believe that they are part of the Iman, it is necessity. Al-amal is the necessity of an Iman, and it is something that the believer should do. But they believe it is separate from the Iman, it is not an integral part of it. And we said Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah believe that it is part of an Iman. We did talk a lot last week. Part of what we discussed last week is that we said that tasdeeq, if we say that he said that al-Iman is tasdeeq, right? You notice in here, he said the word what tasdeequ bil janan. Tasdeeq from saddaqa, right? In the heart. And we say that even in the language, we said al-Iman comes from the same origin as al-amn, security and safety. And in the linguistic perspective, al-Iman is to actually believe and do its necessities that will get you security and safety. The necessities of what you believe in and you to saddiq, right? It has necessity, which are the deeds that you do that will actually get you the security and safety that are as a reward for that, what you believe in. And we said this is what the Arabs always know. And in the Sharia perspective, from the Sharia terminology, or if you wish, the technical definition, we said that the Islam has come. Is there a problem? Stopped working? Okay. Well, we don't want to mess it up in the middle. Let's leave it, inshallah. I'll add the screenshots afterward. طيب. So we said that in the Sharia terminology, right? Or if you wish, the technical definition of al-Iman, is that it is qawl wa amal wa i'tiqad, as we described a little earlier. طيب. And we said even Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala in the Quran, He mentioned in several ayat that al-iman, even from the linguistic perspective, it included the deeds, which are necessity of this belief. Remember we mentioned the ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ إيمان ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب. And notice here, وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس. It is not bir that you turn your face towards east or west, but bir is the one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, the prophets. All of this is the articles of the faith, right? Bir is the one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, the prophets. But check this out now. Then he says, and gives his wealth in spite of love of it to the kinsfolk, to the orphans, to the poor, and to the wayfarer, and to those who ask, and to set slaves free, performs salah and gives the zakah, and who fulfill their covenant when they make it, and who are patient in extreme poverty and ailment, and at times of fighting. All of these marked in green are what? Deeds. You agree with that? Iqam as-salah is what? Is it not amal? Giving the zakat, isn't it not amal? Giving sadaqah, keeping the covenant, fulfilling your covenant, being patient, all of these are from al-a'mal, right? And he said this is al-birr, which in this ayah is referring to al-iman. So we said even from the linguistic perspective, the Arabs have always considered and always understood that al-iman is that you actually do as part of it the deeds that are necessities of what you believe in. And this is what gets you the security and the safety that is result of it or the reward of it. And you notice that al-iman and al-aman, both of them are from the same origin, from the same masdar, from the root of the word. So Allah Azza wa Jal in this ayah, He describing what is expected from the believer to believe in these things that we always know the articles of faith, but in addition to also do and say that are part of the belief. And we also mentioned about the ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. And Allah would never make your faith to be lost. And we said that faith in this ayah is a reference to salah. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. It means وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ صَلَاتَكُمْ. Remember, the Muslim used to pray toward Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem. And then the Qibla was changed toward Al-Kaaba. So they were wondering what happens to the previous prayer. Allah Azza wa Jalla said He will never make your prayer or your faith to be lost. And He referred to salah by faith. Because this is what is required of the faithful. This is the deed that shows that he truly and she truly believed. So this is the necessity. So He made reference to salah by calling it faith, iman. طيب. So to say that al-iman is only tasdeeq of the heart, only a belief of the heart, and it doesn't include deeds, we say it's not accurate. And in the language, tasdeeq and al-iman is more general than that. It includes the deeds and what is required of the actions that are necessities of that iman that will actually get you the safety and security. And in the Sharia, when Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the deen of Islam, al-iman was specifically defined and referred to as, sometimes it would be referred to as the conviction of the heart, and the amal, the deeds, were referred to as faith and iman, and the expression of the tongue also was referred as al-iman. we gave the example of, remember the example of somebody who has his car being stolen. Somebody comes to you and say, your car is being stolen. Somebody's stealing your car and in it is your property. And you say, Jazakallahu khaira. We said, would you consider that somebody who believed in that person, what he said? It's inconceivable that he will be told that his car is being stolen, right? And not actually go and try to prevent that person from stealing his property. Right? It doesn't really mean that he believed, he really truly believed that his car was being stolen. But what also supports this, we said we gave the example of the story of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim as-salam. Remember the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jal told us about the story of Ibrahim when he saw the dream that he is slaughtering his own son Ismail alayhim as-salam. And they came to actually do and obey Allah Azza wa Jal in what He ordered them to do, right? قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Then when they had both submitted themselves to the will of Allah, فلما أسلما وتله للجبين, and when they have both submitted themselves to the will of Allah, and he had laid him prostrate on his forehead, when he made his son Ismail to prostrate to get ready for slaughtering, right? And then Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَيَّ إِبْرَاهِيمُ, and we called out to him, O Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَّقَتَ الرُّؤْيَا, you have fulfilled the dream. Verily, thus do we reward the muhsinin. But we mentioned, when did Allah Azza wa Jal say that you have indeed you صدقت الرؤيا? When did you actually really believe in the ru'ya? When you actually did what you were ordered to do. Imagine just for the sake of discussion, if Ibrahim saw that vision, right? And he said, I believe in it, but then he didn't even try to carry out what he was ordered in the vision. Because you know that the vision of the prophets is haqq. Ru'ya al-anbiya haqq. It is from Allah Azza wa Jal. Unlike our dreams, the dream of the prophets is haqq from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Imagine if Ibrahim said, I saw this dream, I know it's haqq. He says, I am musaddiq in it, but then he doesn't do anything. That's not tasdeeq. When did Allah Azza wa Jal say, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا يَا Ibrahim? After he brought his son and they submitted to the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. He was just about to slaughter. And then Allah Azza wa Jal called, O Ibrahim, you have indeed صدقت الرؤيا. After he actually just about to carry out what he was ordered to. So we see that al-amal is actually part of a tasdeeq, part of an iman. And without amal, there is no tasdeeq. It's an invalid. It's not correct. It's not a true tasdeeq. So we see from all of this that al-amal is part of it. We did also mention about the fact that al-iman in the Quran is mentioned in multiple, it comes in the multiple perspectives. It could be from the language and as well as it come in the Sharia terminology. And we said to be able to tell if it is in the Sharia terminology, the meaning of an iman is the one that is in the Sharia, the technical term, you can tell that if it is superseded by al-ba'. So if there is a ba' after al-iman, then you know that this is the iman which is in the shari, the Sharia terminology, which is the three things that we mentioned, or the five things rather. Use, for example, in the ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, آمَنَ الرَّسُولُ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِ. You see this ba', آمَنَ الرَّسُولُ بِمَا. So this is the iman which is in the Sharia. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ believes in what has been sent down to him from his Lord, and so do the believers. In another ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا آمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. You who believe in Allah and His Messenger. So we see that all of this, whenever there is a ba after amana or aminu, it means that this is the meaning. The meaning of an iman in here is is the one that is from the Sharia terminology. Imam Abu Ja'far in this statement, we said he limited this or the definition of an iman to the affirmation of the tongue and the belief of the heart, or tasdiq al-qalb, or tasdiq al-janan. And we said that he did not mention al-amal. Al-amal is not mentioned in here. And there are certain groups who actually had different views of what al-iman is. There is a group called al-Murji'ah who actually limit al-iman to only tasdiq, that they say it is only the conviction of the heart. And some of them, they also added, some others, for example, in Madhab al-Imam Abu Hanifa, it also add the expression of the tongue. They say it is the conviction of the heart and expression of the tongue. And they take the amal out of it. What is their reasoning? Why did they take the amal out of it? They have multiple evidences, and by the way, brothers, it is important to understand why they thought that way and why it is wrong. This will actually even provide even further evidence. They have multiple evidences, but the strongest one of them, obviously we don't have time to cover all of them, enough to cover the strongest one of them, right? This is the chief evidence that they have. They say this is the strongest evidence and the most important one of them. They said if we look in the Quran, we'll see that Allah Azza wa Jal in so many ayat, mentions الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. So they said, for example, I don't have it here. So they said this waw, which is in English, in the English language, it translates into and. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who believed and did good deeds. This waw and and in the Arabic language, we call it one of the letters of al-ataf, يعني connecting one thing to another, right? When you need to mention two things or more, what do? You say and, this and this and that, right? Likewise in the Arabic language. This is to connect things together. You connect them with al-waw. We call it in the Arabic language al-ataf. They said, when the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal always connected ataf, the deeds, to the iman, it means that they are two different things. Because the ataf with the waw and it means that the first part and the second part, their realities are different. This is what they said. And that al-amal is different than al-iman. And the reality of it, the deeds are different, or is different than the reality of an iman. This is what they said. And we say that is absolutely correct. But it is not the only explanation. That's not the only use of this ataf by the waw. That's one case. There's actually more to it. This is one of the scenarios. It is not the only scenario. This is one of the scenarios, not the only scenario. So there's actually more to it. It is not just that always whenever you see something and something, that it means that there are two completely different things. That's not always the case. Let's get into this a little bit and give some examples, and I think by this it will become even more clearer. It will actually become clearer and easier to understand. We say that al-waw, or al-ataf by the waw, connecting two things by the waw, can come to mean that they are completely two different things. Their essence is different. For example, I can say, I have brother Yusuf and I have brother Mukarram. Right? They're completely two different individuals. I can say in the Arabic language, دخل يوسف ومكرم إلى المسجد. دخل يوسف ومكرم. يعني Yusuf and Mukarram entered into the masjid. The waw in here obviously it infers, or it is referring to the fact that they are two different people, two different individuals, right? The essence of Yusuf is different than the essence of Mukarram. They are two completely different people. So we can say in here that this is one of the scenarios that they're totally different in their reality. But it can come to mean different, not differing reality, but differing attribute, the description of something, while in essence it is the same thing. That is another scenario. Let's give an example. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the ayah of Surah Al-Hijr, Alif Lam Ra, Tilka Ayatul Kitab wa Qur'an Mubin. Al-Kitab wa Qur'an Mubin. These are the verses of the book and a plain Qur'an. Let me ask you a question. Al-Kitab and Al-Qur'an, are they two different things? Al-Kitab is the book, and Al-Qur'an is the Qur'an. Are they two different things, or are they referring to the same thing? Same thing. Ahsant. Barakallah fiqh. They are the same thing. It is the same Qur'an, but it is being referred to in different ways. It is being referred to once in the first thing by kitab, book that is written, and another attribute of the Quran that it is recited. Quran, yani from that it is being recited. Although it is the same thing, it is the same book that is being referred to. So hence, in this case, this waw is referring to the difference in the description, in the attribute. You know, for example, sometimes something can be referred to by different attributes. And you can actually make a connection by the waw or and, although it is the same thing, but it is referring to the same thing, but in different description. This is another case. Like, the other scenario is that the waw can be used not to refer to a difference in the essence of the two things, but rather in the difference in the fact that one is the general term and one is a specific term, or one is the whole and the other one is part of it. So you can sometimes connect two things with the waw or and, but this is to say that this is part of it. This is a whole and this is a part of this whole. Or this is the general term and this is a specific thing of it. Let's take an example. Allah Azza, and this is what we call, by the way, in the Arabic language, for those who understand Arabic, this is we call عطف العام على الخاص, or عطف الخاص على العام. The general connecting it to the specific, or the specific connecting it to the general. And all of these are possible. Allah Azza wa Jal, let's take this ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah Azza wa Jal says, من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله وجبريل وميكال فإن الله عدو للكافرين. Whoever is an enemy to Allah, His angels, His messengers, Jibreel and Mikael, or Mikael, then verily Allah is an enemy to the disbelievers. Now in the English language, obviously, which is one of the differences between the languages. In Arabic, if you want to connect multiple terms, you keep repeating the waw. You notice in here, من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله وجبريل وميكال. 4 waws. In the English, they don't do this. They do a little different. They make a comma. Although in principle, it should have been whoever is an enemy to Allah and His angels and His messengers and Jibreel and Mikael. But they typically don't do that, right? What do? They make comma and then the last one they put an end, right? But the end is there, it's just inherent, right? It's there, but they remove it. Let's take a look at this ayah. This is an ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, right? So we have 4 waws. Let's say what it means. The first one, let me use a different color. I'm going to use the green one. Allah Azza wa Jal says, "Man kana aduwan lillahi wa malaikatihi." So we have Allah and malaika. They are connected, ma'tuf, with the waw. Which type of atuf in here? The atuf of two completely different things. Obviously, Allah Azza wa Jal is different than the malaika. The malaika are different than Allah Azza wa Jal. Al malaika is one of His creation. They are created beings, right? With certain characteristics. And Allah Azza wa Jal is the creator, the deity, subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa al-haq, subhanahu. So in here, obviously, this wow in here, right? This is in reference to the fact that the malaika are different than Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is a ataf of two things that are different. Let's keep going. The second wow, this one in here. وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. This ataf between al-malaika and the rusul is what? Two different things, but one is part of the other. They're not completely different things. Why? Because we know that al-rusul can be from al-malaika as well as they can be from the humans. Allah Tabarak, and I put this, by the way, I'm doing something a little different today if you notice. I'm adding extra slides so that it is easier for you to follow. When you see the ayah, when you see what I'm doing, it will be easier. Obviously, these are not part of the text of the Aqidah, and that's why I did not put at the top this, the title, so that it's not confusing. But at the same time, I put the ayah in here so that it becomes clearer. You notice the ayah of Surah Al-Hajj in here. Allahu yastafi min al-malaikati rusulan wa min al-nas. Allah chooses messengers from angels and from man. So we know that, going back to the ayah, وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. Some of the rusul are malaika, and some of the rusul are from the humans. So the rusul are the general term, are the kull, the whole. Part of them could be from the malaika. So we say that the malaika is part of the messengers. Because some of the messengers can be angels, are sent. And some are from the humans, from al-ins. So we say in this ataf, we are making a ataf, a connection between the whole, which is a rusul. The rusul are the whole. Part of them are from the angels. And part of them are from the humans. So the angels are part of the rusul. So this is a ataf of the whole to the part. Are you following, brothers? Everybody? I'll repeat if you're getting lost. Everybody's following? Alhamdulillah, that's good, mashallah. The next one. Then there's this wow in here. وَرُسُلِهِ وَجِبْرِيلَ وَمِيكَالِ. We have a wow, we have ataf. Let's take a look at what type of connection is this. Are Jibreel and Mikal different than al-malaika? Yes, they're different, but there are two of them. So again, it is part of the whole. It is khas from this kull or from al-umum, which is the angels. The angels are all of them. Jibreel and Mikal are two of them, are two examples of them. And Allah Azza wa Jal is specifically naming these two and connecting them to the more general term, the type of them, which are al-malaika, which he mentioned before. So this is a ataf connection with the word wow, or with the letter wow, or and in the English language, of something that is part to the whole. Jibreel and Mikal are part of the angels. So we see in here, it did not necessarily mean that they are two different things, two different essence. The essence of the first one is different than the essence of the second one. This is an example of where we are actually connecting the part to the whole. طيب. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Going back to their evidence, they said, Allah Azza wa Jal says in many ayat, الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. They said this wow means that they are completely different. Al-Iman الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا Iman. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ عَمَلٌ. They said this wow is an indication that they are completely different, two different things. We say no, that's not it. This is an example of where you are connecting the part to the whole. The part being al-amal, the whole being al-iman. So the amal becomes part of al-iman. This is an example or a scenario of عطف الخاص على العام, much like وَرُسُلِهِ وَجِبْرِيلَ وَمِيكَالَ. This is what it means. Allah Azza wa Jal says in many ayat, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. In Surah Al-Asr, for example, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. In another ayah, Surah Al-Kahf, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْفِرْدَوْسِ نُزُلًا. Verily, those who believe and do righteous deeds shall have the gardens of Al-Firdaus for their entertainment. In another ayah in Surah Maryam, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Verily, those who believe in the oneness, obviously, of Allah and His Messenger and work deeds of righteousness, the most beneficent, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will bestow love for them, yani in the hearts of the believers. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. We say all of these are examples of ataf, the part to the whole. And al-amal is part of al-iman. Inseparable part of al-iman. It is not accepted without it. So all of these indicate that al-amal is part of al-iman and it is part of its reality, part of its definition. You may ask, why do we do that? Why do we sometimes, what is the benefit of connecting the part to the whole? If you mention the whole, why do you need to mention the part of it? It's already included in the whole, right? And in other words, when Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. We said al-iman includes al-amal. So there was no need to say وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ because this is already included in إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Sorry. That could have been enough. Or in another ayah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. We said that al-amal is part of iman, so there was no need to actually explicitly say وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Why do we say that? In the Quran it is mentioned, and in the sayings of the Arab, in the authoring, in their sayings, they also use this type of expression, connecting the part to the whole. Why do we do that? And I'm pretty sure if we think about it, even in the other languages, when you see this, brothers and sisters, when you see this part being connected to the whole, it is to say that this part is so important and so honorable that it is explicitly mentioned on its own, although it is part of the whole. In other words, al-amal is so important, although it is part of al-iman, it is so important that Allah Azza wa Jal is drawing our attention to it and to its importance, and that is why He is actually mentioning it explicitly after al-iman. Otherwise, it is part of al-iman. No question about it. Is that clear, Abu Abdurrahman? طيب. I'll tell you, you even do that probably, without even noticing this. Yes, don't be surprised. I'll give you an example. You probably never noticed this. If you once invited several brothers to your house, طيب, and one of them is really so dear to you, and in reality he is the really person who is meant by the invitation, but you invited other people too. What do you say? If you want to express that, if you want to tell other people about it, you say, Alhamdulillah, I was blessed. Several brothers visited me, and brother such and such. That he's part of them. But you explicitly mentioned his name. Why? Because you appreciate that particular brother in particular so much, and the invitation is for that person. But you invited other people just so that, there is a kind of gathering. Right? You say, several brothers visited me and this brother. This is the same thing. This is the same expression. So that's why we say, so this is no evidence whatsoever that amal is different than al-iman, but rather that this is a way of expression of saying that al-amal is so important, but it is part of al-iman. It is inseparable, just to show its importance. طيب. Going forward with more evidences, alhamdulillah, we discussed several evidences from the Quran, from different ayat. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ, which is salatakum. And this is we already mentioned this a little while ago, right? Allah Azza wa Jal referred to as-salah, which is amal, by the term al-iman, imanakum. Allah Azza wa Jal also, in the several ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah in particular, we mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jal included al-amal, or certain types of deeds, as part of al-iman. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ to the rest of the ayah. And then he said, وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, etc., etc. All of these are types of deeds. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, it is so inconceivable. I find it so obvious that somebody who says, I believe, but then doesn't do anything from the deeds that are necessities of this belief. I say, I believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, then I don't pray something that He made it mandatory upon me. How can somebody say, I truly believe, and then doesn't do anything of the deeds? It just doesn't make any sense. Believe in what? Where's the proof to your belief then? How come that you believe, and that belief doesn't really lead you to do anything of the good deeds as in the obedience of Allah or obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal? It's just inconceivable to separate this and not do it as part of an iman. طيب. So we say that this is something that to be remembered, that al-ataf could be from the part to the whole. From the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when the people of the tribe of Abd Qais or Abdul Qais, they came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to ask him about al-Islam and about al-Iman. Before they entered into Islam, they came to submit, but they came to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what is it that we have to do? So he told them about, among other things, he told them that you have to believe in Allah. He said, آمُرُكُمْ بِالْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. I order you to believe in Allah alone. Then he said, أَتَدْرُونَ مَا الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. Do you know what is al-Iman in Allah alone? Do you know what it means? They said no. Then he explained to them. He's explaining to them what it is, right? What's included in that. Then he told them about the 6 pillars that we all know about, right? Iman billah, bil malaika, bil kutub, bil rusul, etc. You know the 6 pillars. And then he added to that, he said, وَأَن تُؤَدُّوا الْخُمْسَ مِنَ الْمَغْنَمِ. He said, and to pay the khums, the 1/5 of the booty to be given in Allah's cause. You know when they used to make jihad and they used to open the land, whatever they gained from the war, from the battle, which is the booty, it has to be divided into 5/5, right? 1/5, 1/5, 5 of them. One of them, Allah Azza wa Jal made it for Himself, for His cause. They need to give 1/5 of it to Allah's cause. That's what? That's a deed, right? So he said this is part of أن تؤمنوا بالله وحده. So it is part of al-Iman. This is another proof to that. Another one, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. He said, Al-Imanu bid'un wa sab'una shu'bah, a'laha qawlu la ilaha illa Allah, wa adnaha imatatu al-adha 'an al-tariq, wal haya'u shu'batun min shu'ab al-iman. This is a great hadith, by the way. So clear. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Iman is 60 and some branches. Or he said 70 and some branches. The uppermost of which, so there is so many branches, so many levels. The uppermost of which, the Iman, is the testimony of faith, La ilaha illallah. To declare La ilaha illallah, obviously with faith. While the least of them is the removal of the harmful object from the road. What is that? Amal. He said this is one of the branches of Iman. إِمَاطَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ, removal of the harmful object from the road, and shyness is a branch of Iman. Shyness of the heart, shyness. Al-haya min Allah is part of Iman, is a branch of Iman. So you see in this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam referred to three things. He referred to the expression of the tongue, which is قَوْلْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and he referred to the deed of the organs, which is the removal of the harmful object from the road, as well as he referred to the actions of the heart. What is shyness, brothers and sisters? Shyness is what? Is an action. Amal al-qalb is one of the a'mal al-qulub. The shyness is one of the deeds of the heart. So you see in this hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ gave examples of what Iman is. Gave examples of an Iman. And he exemplified an Iman in terms of the expression of the tongue, action of the limbs, of the hands, for example, removal of the harmful object, and action of the heart, amal al-qalb, shyness. Then we also said, remember we said Iman 5 things. قول عمل اعتقاد يزيد وينقص. Going back to this is a master slide, by the way. This should be a master slide, inshallah, here. With the 5 things that we mentioned. يزيد وينقص. Let me use a different color. So we said يزيد وينقص. Increases and decreases. What is the increase and the decrease? It is in the Allah Azza wa Jalla referred to that. For example, in the ayah of Surah Al-Anfal, وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. The believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, feel a fear in their hearts, and when His verses of the Quran are recited unto them, they increase their faith. The verses increase their faith. Hence the increase of the faith of Iman. Also, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Fatih, لِيَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَعَ إِيمَانِهِمْ. He it is who sent down as-sakina, which is the calmness and tranquility, into the hearts of the believers, that they may grow more in faith. That they grow more in faith. Their faith is increasing. They grow more in faith along with their faith. يَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَعَ إِيمَانِهِمْ. To add more faith on top of the faith that they already had. And to Allah belongs the host of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is ever all knower, all wise. In another ayah in Surah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. While as for those who accept guidance, He increases their guidance. He increases their iman and bestows on them their piety. So you notice in this ayah there is a mention of the increase of an iman. And I think it is obvious, right, Brother Yusuf and Brother Mushtaba? It is... I'm doing like a teacher, right, who caught the students. So, I think it is very obvious, there are deeds that increase the iman will decrease with the lack of those deeds that increased it in the first place. Right? If there are deeds that increase the iman, the lack of them will decrease the iman. I think it's obvious, right? Because if those deeds increase the iman, if the person doesn't do them, what will happen? The iman will decrease. And obviously, if you disobey, and you find this from yourself, you sometimes express it. You say, Alhamdulillah, mashallah, I feel my iman is so much higher now, right? When you pray on time, when you do the good deeds, when you recite the Quran, you make dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, different obediences in general, you feel like your iman is going up. When you are actually going lazy and you slack off and you start disobeying, you feel like your iman, I'm very weak, you're getting weaker in iman, right? You feel it. Like, even from the Sahaba, they expressed this. One of the Sahaba, Umayr ibn Habib radiyallahu anhu, he once said, Al-Iman yazid wa yanqus. The iman increases and decreases. So he was asked, what is the increase of iman and what is the decrease of iman? Yani explain to us what do you mean by that. You said it increases and decreases. What do you mean by that? What is the increase in iman and decrease in iman? He said, رضي الله عنه وأرضاه, he said, إذا سبحنا الله وحمدناه وذكرناه فذلك زيادته. When we make praise to Allah Azza wa Jal and we exalt Allah Azza wa Jal, tasbih and tahmid, and وذكرناه from dhikr of Allah, we mention Allah Azza wa Jal, that drives our iman higher. وَإِذَا غَفِلْنَا, heedlessness. When we go into heedlessness, وَإِذَا غَفِلْنَا فَذَلِكَ وَنَسِينَا فَذَلِكَ نُقْصَانُ. If we actually forget and we are heedless and we forget about the mention of Allah Azza wa Jal, then this is the decrease of iman. So we see that this increase and decrease of al-iman is in the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in the ayat of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and is the saying of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een. طيب, I think let's take a break here, inshallah. Let's take a 20-minute break and then we'll come back. How's that? طيب, let's go for it. Oh, couple minutes. طيب. So they're asking for a couple minutes, inshallah. But let's switch to the countdown. Abdullah Aziz. تفضل. Yes, 70 some. The scholars have actually went through that process. A lot of scholars attempted to enumerate them from the different ahadith, obviously. Yani they went through the sunnah to see if they can figure them out. Several of them, they came close to that. If you want, I can give you references afterward. But several scholars, they went through this exercise of figuring them out from the different ahadith. Now, تفضل. Why he mentioned them? Because they are the most honorable of the angels. You know that there are many angels, obviously, but Allah Azza wa Jal explicitly mentioned Mikael or Jibreel and Mikael for their importance, for their honor, for their fadl, their excellence compared to the rest of the malaika. Jibreel alayhi salam being the one entrusted with al-wahy, the revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is the most important thing, right? So this is to show his excellence among the angels. Likewise, Mikael, also who sent his excellence compared to the other angels. No. Because Mikael is the one who is tasked with sending the rain and moving the cloud around and all that actually brings kind of the physical life to people. So these are two of the most excellent angels. So that's why Allah Azza wa Jal specifically and explicitly mentioned them after mentioning the angels in general. Yeah. I'm not sure I understood the question. Yes. So what is he doing? Allahu Alam knows. We have no knowledge. He's still there, obviously. He's one of the angels. We don't know what he's doing, but he was entrusted with all the revelation. Every revelation that was sent down, Jibreel was the one who came down with it. He was the one who came down with the Torah upon Musa and the Injil upon Isa, and he's the one who brought Suhuf Ibrahim, etc., etc. All of them, Jibreel was tasked with that. There are, no, not prophet. All the prophets are from the humans. Because the messengers and the prophets from the humans are messengers for the humans and the jinn, not the malaika, from the jinn. But there are messengers in the sense that they were sent with a specific task. They were sent with a specific task. That's why they are sent, so they are messengers. Yani they were sent with a specific message. Now, I think probably the food is almost ready, if not ready. So let's go ahead and start, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we're going to start in 2 minutes. We're going to start again in 2 minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we're going to start. If the brothers and sisters can head back, inshallah, we're going to start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أما بعد. So we continue inshallah our commentary on this text of Aqidah. Inshallah it's going to actually be split. I really want to finish this statement, and then I know, what was it, last week or the week before, there was a question about al-masah, which is really a continuation of this. I don't see the brother who asked about it, but it's not here. But it's recorded. He can watch it, inshallah, later. Inshallah, the following week we'll definitely start with the salah in the second track. But going back to this statement number 138, وَالْإِيمَانُ هُوَ الْإِقْرَارُ بِاللِّسَانِ وَالتَّصْدِيقُ بِالْجَنَانِ. And Iman is to affirm with the tongue and to believe with the heart. So we did talk about the fact that this is missing a third thing, which is al-amal. We say al-iman قول وعمل واعتقاد, and it increases and decreases. يزيد وينقص. And we did give the examples from the Quran, from the language first of the Arabs, from the Quran, from the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad and from the Sahaba and the scholars of Islam, that all point to the fact that al-iman is قول وعمل واعتقاد. Amal is part of al-iman, and it increases and decreases. Increases with the good deeds, decreases with the sins and evil deeds. So, with that said, this statement that it is five things, that al-iman is i'tiqad al-qalb, or the belief of the heart, or the conviction of the heart rather. And this is what some people actually call it al-tasdeeq. You notice that we actually call al-iman is i'tiqad al-qalb, or the conviction of the heart. But in here, Imam Abu Ja'far is saying al-tasdeeq. Tasdeeq al-janan. Al-janan is the heart as well. But he's referring to it as tasdeeq. And we're going to have something to say about that. Some people call it al-tasdeeq. And we said that it is also the affirmation of the tongue, qawl al-lisan, and amal al-arkan, which is the actions according to the Sharia, and it increases and decreases. Now, obviously, we did mention something about the fact that different groups had different sayings or different opinions about what actually the iman is, right? And and al-amal, with respect to al-amal, what is al-amal that is meant in this statement? When you say al-amal, iman qawlun wa amal. And what is al-amal? And what is meant by this part of al-iman? But before we do that, I wanted to actually point out some of the different sayings about al-iman. So some people, for example, they say al-iman is just the expression of the tongue. They go to real extremes. For example, a group called al-Karramiyah, after somebody called it Karram something. They say it is only the expression of the tongue. And their reasoning, real quick, very interesting reasoning. They said that Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran, He even called the Muslim believers, and that may have included even the hypocrites, which we know that in their heart they did not believe. This is just based on what they outwardly said with their tongue. So they said this is an iman. Go figure. Interesting. Other people, they say that it is merely tasdeeq al-qalb. Just tasdeeq al-qalb. Like al-Asha'ira and al-Maturidiyah. This is what they believe. It is just the tasdeeq al-qalb. And they limit it to that. And some go to another extreme, like al-Jahmiyyah. They say it's neither of any of those. It is just merely knowing Allah. Ma'rifatullah. They say just the mere knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal in the heart, this is what al-iman. What's really interesting, according to them, according to their definition, then Fir'aun and Iblis become believers. According to their definition, Fir'aun, he knew in his heart, he knew Allah Azza wa Jal. Araf Allah. But he, out of arrogance and stubbornness, he did not believe, right? But he knew in the heart. So that would make him believer, believe it or not. And even Iblis, he knew. Araf Allah, araf al-haq, but he rejected it. So according to their definition, that would make them believers. According to the Ash'ari, we said they limit al-iman to just tasdeeq al-qalb, which is also very interesting because that also makes the mushriki Quraysh and Abu Lahab and Abu Talib, it makes them believers. Why? Because Allah Azza wa Jal affirmed that in the bottom of their heart, they believed that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying what is haqq. But they rejected it. They wouldn't express it in their tongues, nor would they do according to it, nor would they have conviction in the heart. But they knew and they had tasdeeq that he was telling the truth. Right? As a matter of fact, believe it or not, here's what Abu Talib, you know Abu Talib? Ammar Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the uncle of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the father of Ali and other. You know that he never entered into Islam, right? Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tried up until the last moment before he died. If we say that al-iman is just tasdeeq al-qalb, well, check this out. This is what he said in 2 verses of poetry. He once said, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ أَنَّ دِينَ مُحَمَّدٍ من خير أديان البرية دينا. He said, I know for a fact that the deen of Muhammad, what is the deen of Muhammad? Islam. He said, I knew that the deen of Muhammad, Islam, is from the best of the religions of the humans. لولا الملامة أو حذار مسبة. If it weren't for the fear of being blamed, I changed my deen, the deen of my fathers and forefathers, and they'll blame me for doing that. How can you change the deen? Or أو حذار مسبة, or fear for being cursed. لرأيتني سمحا بذاك مبينا. You would have found me submitting to this deen, and I would be very happy with it. This is what Abu Talib said. If we say that it is just the tasdeeq of the qalb, that makes him a believer. But we know he is in hellfire. He is the least who will be punished on the day of judgment. We talked about that. Remember, he will receive the least punishment in hellfire. So, and even the Jews, they knew that this is haqq, that the Prophet ﷺ was haqq. They even knew Rasulullah ﷺ and that his deen is haqq, like they knew their own children. الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. They know it's haqq, like they know their own children. They know it very quickly. But it's arrogance and stubbornness and jealousy. They would never submit, they would never believe in Arab. They said, what? He's Arab, he's not Jew. So they never believed, they had of arrogance that kept them from believing in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this is what's so interesting. Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we said that they believe in the 5 things. They say Iman is those 5 things. طيب. Al-amal, which is part of al-iman, right? We talked at length about it, right? What is al-amal? Does that mean that I have to do every duty or everything that Allah recommended or emphasized, all the good deeds and all the wajibat and all the fara'id, and stay away from all the forbidden to be called a believer? If I miss one duty, or if I commit one muharram or impermissible, that would make me an unbeliever or a disbeliever? Is this what is meant by it? We say there's some clarification in here. We want to talk about what we mean by al-amal. What is al-amal that is part of al-iman when we say al-imanu qawlun wa amal? So obviously, in addition to the conviction of the heart and the expression of the tongue, which is to actually say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan rasulullah, there is amal bil arkan that we talked, the 3rd one, right? What is this amal bil arkan? Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they say al-amal, in here it is jins al-amal, which is the type of deed that corrects this iman. And it is not the whole deed, all inclusive. It doesn't mean that a person has to do everything, all the goods and all the duties and the wajibat and the fara'id to be called a believer. Because some people, they went to actually think that al-amal is one thing. It either exists as a whole or it goes away altogether. We say that's not the case. That's not the case. Al-amal, which is one of the pillars of al-iman, is not one thing, but rather it is parts, right? Some of it can go away, but the rest remains. Meaning that if you do some, and if you don't do the others, that doesn't take all the amal away from you. Doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. You see the difference, brothers and sisters? Some people say that it is one thing. We like al-khawarij, and this is what we call now, takfiriyah, the term takfiri, right? They actually judge and label as kuffar for merely, we talked about that, for merely committing a major sin. Just committing a major sin, even if you still believe it's wrong, that will take you away from it. Or if you miss a wajib, if you don't do, for example, one wajib, that they take you out of the fold of Islam, meaning that it takes all the amal away from you. And we say this is actually not correct, but rather it is the type of deed. It is some obedience that you do to Allah Azza wa Jal to correct this iman. Yani if you do some and if you leave off some, it doesn't take it all away. And this is, by the way, one of the discussions that is so discussed so much among the scholars and debated among the scholars when they talk about the salah. And is the salah the type of deed, jins al-amal, that corrects, that must be there? And the discussion of whether a person who doesn't pray, even if it is just out of laziness and slacking off, or just not appreciating the value or the importance of a salah, not praying out of that, is it something that takes the person outside of the fold of Islam? We say Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So what we actually want to take away from this discussion is that al-iman, if it is accompanied by what represents al-amal, representative of al-amal, even if it is part of it, then this will correct the belief. And what is the stronger opinion of the scholars is that this is a salah. It is represented in a salah. If a salah goes away, if the person doesn't pray, then that takes away al-amal from al-iman, and it takes the iman away from it. The salah is the minimum, if you wish, the minimum level of amal that must be there, that will correct this iman, which is to satisfy this amal that is part of al-iman. And this jins al-amal, which is in the salah, that actually is the outward deed that will correct the inward conviction, al-iman, al-i'tiqad, which is the inward conviction of the heart. Like I said, must be there for this outward deed actually validates this inward tasdeeq and i'tiqad of the heart. And it is not conceivable for a person who actually claims and says, I am a believer, and then there is no outward deeds whatsoever. If you remember the last comment about this, if you remember when we discussed or when we commented on this, the second hadith of the 40 hadith Nawawi, hadith al-Iman, hadith Jibreel. Remember the hadith of Jibreel, of the coming of Jibreel. We said that Islam, Rasulullah SAW defined Islam with the outward submission, the outward deeds. And we said that Iman, Rasulullah SAW defined it with the inward deeds or the inward convictions of the heart. But we said that doesn't make them completely separate. That doesn't mean that they are completely separate and there's no relations in between them. But rather, for the Iman to be correct, it has to have some Islam with it, which is the outward deeds to correct it. And those outward deeds, which are Islam, also require the minimum level of Iman to correct it. So one leads to the other, and one requires and necessitates the other to be correct. Inward belief has to be accompanied by deeds. And we said the minimum thing is a salah. So somebody, for example, who prays, and who obviously have the convictions of the heart in the 6 articles of the iman. But then, for example, out of slacking off or out of laziness, he doesn't pray, doesn't give zakat. Not out of denial. He doesn't deny that they are duties, but he doesn't do them. We say this is actually a Muslim. He's not. We don't take that person outside of the fold of Islam. But if on top of that, there's no prayer, then this is actually where it takes this amal, which is representative of al-amal. If the salah goes away, then the amal is completely taken off. And it invalidates the iman of that person. So there must be at least some level of outward deeds, and we said salah is representative of that. It must be there. Is that clear? طيب. The last matter that I wanted to actually talk about in here is with respect to the expression of what an iman is. And I hinted at it. You see that Imam Abu Ja'far in here is saying al-iman is al-iqrar bil-lisan, expression of the tongue, and al-tasdeeq bil-janan. Notice he referred to al-tasdeeq. And I kept saying, here, let me use this color. He says al-tasdeeq. And I kept referring to that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah say it is qawlun wa amalun wa i'tiqad. I'tiqad al-qalb. And if you see in here, as a matter of fact, let me use a different color just to also make it clear. Say in here, i'tiqad. We're saying i'tiqad al-janan or al-qalb, which is the heart. And he's saying wa tasdeequn bil-janan. So are they the same? Is the tasdeeq the same as al-i'tiqad? Or are they different? And which one is more accurate? Are they exactly the same thing? We say that there is a difference between al-tasdeeq and between al-i'tiqad. And al-tasdeeq is actually one thing. And it is one ibadah. Any person who believes in Allah Azza wa Jal and believe in Islam, they have this tasdeeq, which is one thing, which is one component, if you wish, and it is one action of ibadah, one ibadah. On the other hand, al-i'tiqad is actually something that includes many things of the deeds of the heart. So al-i'tiqad is more than al-tasdeeq. And al-tasdeeq is part of al-i'tiqad, and al-i'tiqad is actually more, is tasdeeq and more, and beyond that. And this is why we say that al-i'tiqad actually is the more suitable term, and it is more accurate and reflective of what al-iman is. And that's why you see, we say i'tiqad al-qalb, not tasdeeq al-qalb. And we're going to talk about what the difference is. طيب. When we say al-iman qawlun wa amal, when we say, remember we said that there are multiple statements from the scholars. قول وعمل or قول وعمل واعتقاد. When they say قول وعمل, they actually refer to the sayings of the tongue and the sayings of the heart, which is its i'tiqad. And the deeds, وعمل, it is amal of the organs, the outward deeds, as well as the deeds of the heart. Because we know that the heart has sayings and has deeds. A'mal al-qulub. So we say that this is actually very accurate. قول القلب. Can the heart talk? Yes. It talks. And its talking or its saying or its expression is actually this tasdeeq and the sincerity to Allah Azza wa Jal. Yani the talking or the speech of the heart or the qawl of the heart is actually its tasdeeq that Allah Azza wa Jal is haqq and the angels are haqq, etc., etc. And there's qawl al-lisan, which is the testimony that you say, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, which actually reflects the speech of the heart. Al-amal, like I said, it actually includes amal al-qalb and amal of the organs and of the limbs of the body. Amal al-qalb, brothers and sisters, this is what a lot of people overlook, by the way. Although they are so important, as a matter of fact, they're more important than the deeds of of the limbs. A lot of people overlook them. Examples of a'mal al-qulub like al-mahabba, love of Allah Azza wa Jal. Love to Allah Azza wa Jal. Tawakkul alayh, relying on Him. Trusting Allah Azza wa Jal in everything. Fear of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Raja' billah, to have hope in Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-inaba ilayh, to go back to Allah Azza wa Jal after sinning or after wronging. Al-khashya min al-Rabb, or also this fear of Allah Azza wa Jal and this reverence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. All of these are from a'mal al-qulub, the deeds and the actions of the heart. And what actually connects or what relates to the heart from the matters of iman is not one thing. And it is not just tasdeeq, but rather we're seeing it is actually tasdeeq and more. There are deeds also as well. And all of this is from al-iman. And that's why we say al-i'tiqad is actually tasdeeq and more. Because there is also these deeds of the heart that are also part of it. So it's not one thing, it's multiple things. And al-tasdeeq is just one of them. That's why we say that i'tiqad al-qalb is more accurate in the definition of al-iman. And by the way, we know, and we're going to talk a little bit after that in the next statements, that al-iman of people is different, is not the same level among people. Some people have more and some people have less. And people differ in their levels of iman, right? There are degrees of iman. Some of them are higher and some of them are lesser. What is this difference of the iman of people? Where does it come from? It comes from the difference it has to do with the difference in the increase or decrease of the outward deeds and the inward deeds. So what reflects that, or what actually indicates that higher iman or lesser iman, if the person prays more, if the person has more remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, if the person has more fasting or fast more, give more zakat, etc., as well as have more deeds of the heart. He has more love to Allah Azza wa Jal, greater love to Allah Azza wa Jal, greater fear from Allah Azza wa Jal, greater hope in Allah Azza wa Jal. All of this translates into having a greater faith, iman. Better iman or higher iman. And the lesser of both, the outward and the inward, it means that the person has lesser iman. So this level of iman, and whether it is going higher or lesser, it has to do with the outward deeds and the outward submission and the outward surrender in obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, as well as it has to do with the inward deeds of the heart. And these inward deeds of the heart are of two types. They are of two types. There is the type that is mandatory from the deeds of the heart, and there are those that are muharram, impermissible, and the person should actually leave them out. And the heart should not do them because they are impermissible. What are some of those examples? That which are mandatory, like obviously love of Allah Azza wa Jal. This action of the heart is a mandatory thing for the believer. Yani, can you imagine, is it conceivable of a believer who doesn't love Allah Azza wa Jal? There's contradiction, it cannot be. So this is from the mandatory types of the deeds of the heart. Love of Allah Azza wa Jal, going back to Him, al-inaba ila Allah, tawakkul alayh, trusting Allah Azza wa Jal, relying upon Him, having fear of Him, or having tranquility with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, etc., etc. What should be actually not done, what should not be done by the heart of the believer is, for example, to having this boasting, right? To actually see yourself as, somebody who is, this self-praising, and being, praising one deeds or one iman, and having this kind of grandiose, if you wish, having ill thinking of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and the like. All of these are from the impermissible of deeds of the heart, and the person should stay away from them. So we see that tasdeeq al-qalb is one component, is one part of it. A'mal al-qulub is tasdeeq, because tasdeeq is one of the a'mal al-qulub, but it is actually also more than that should be done or from the impermissible deeds that a person should stay away from. All of this relates to al-Iman, like I said, and this is actually a more accurate term. طيب. So the more loving the person is, the more Iman he has or she has, right? The more, if a person has more or comes more often back to Allah Azza wa Jal, he keeps coming back, keep yunib ilallah, keep relying upon Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala more and more. He has more fear of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then this will mean that his tasdeeq will be higher. This tasdeeq is also will be affected by these deeds of the heart. The more love you to Allah Azza wa Jal, you'll see that you have more tasdeeq in Allah Azza wa Jal. And the less you love, and the less you trust Allah, and the less you rely on Him, you will see that the tasdeeq will actually go down and will decrease in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And the yaqeen will increase with those deeds of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. طيب, فإذن, so we see that when we say that al-Iman is qawl and amal and i'tiqad, which we said is the more accurate term, its increase of the increase of the Iman has to do with the three of them. Yani when the Iman increases, or what causes the Iman to increase, is actually more actions of the heart, more belief in the heart, conviction of the heart, and more sayings of the heart, of the tongue. The more you do that, the greater the Iman and the higher the Iman will increase, and your tasdeeq. And the less you do from that, then the lesser your tasdeeq and the lesser your Iman will be. So they have a very strong connection, and they, one imply the other. And this increasing of Iman has strongly to do with the actions of the limbs and the actions of the heart. I don't know if this became clear. What actually makes increase of the Iman, or what dictates the increase of the Iman and the decrease of the Iman, and how it has to do with the deeds. And that's why we say that they are an integral part of al-Iman, and they affect al-Iman. Yani the more actions you do, whether inward or outward, inward being of the heart and outward being of the limbs and the organs, the more you do, the more your Iman is, and the more your tasdeeq, and the more your yaqeen is. And the lesser the Iman is. Yani the vice versa. طيب, this is what we have to say about the statement 138. Any questions? No questions? طيب. I think if there are no questions, let's stop here, inshallah. And we'll actually switch really quick. Let me actually save those changes, and then kind of those remaining 20 minutes, inshallah, let's come on. All right, doesn't want to open. So just a quick reminder, I think. So the brother asked about al-masah on the khuffayn, which has to do with the purity. And we said that let's actually, since we don't have too much time, I think let's talk very quickly about it, although we did talk about it. But, since we reminded ourselves about wudu and ghusl, etc., that would be a good opportunity to remind ourselves about al-masah on the khuffayn and the matters that relate to it. For some reason, it doesn't want to With respect to al-masah, brothers and sisters, we did say, let's start with the rulings of al-masah on the khuffain, its permissibility, and how I can make masah and the related matters, and then we'll leave what is more contentious matter is what can be wiped over, what can we make masah on, and what cannot be, with the different opinions, inshallah. But let's start with the matters that relate to masah itself. Obviously, like I said, we did talk about this before during our explanation of the chapter of purity. But very quickly, we said that the masah on the khuffain is one of the matters that Allah Azza wa Jal legislated and allowed as a means of ease. Allah Azza wa Jal made it an easy thing on us, and this is from His favor upon this ummah, and to remove any burden from it. He legislated and allowed the permissibility to make masah on the khuffain, which are from leather, right? That can be worn in the feet. And this is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there's consensus on this among Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. As a matter of fact, there's such a consensus that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah mention al-masah on the khuffain in their aqa'id. And we're going to see in this Aqidah At-Tahawiyyah much later, and toward the end of it, where it is mentioned. And Imam Abu Ja'far says, وَنَرَى الْمَسْحَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ وَيَرَوْنَ الْمَسْحَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ, and they see the wiping over the socks, meaning they see the permissibility. Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they see the permissibility of wiping over the socks, because some deviant groups, they made it impermissible. So because of this great difference, they actually mentioned al-masah on the khuffain, although it is a fiqhi matter. They mentioned it because this is one of the distinguishing matters that distinguish Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah from deviant groups. So they actually mention it, and they say that we see the permissibility of the masah on the khuffain out of ease, like I said. And there are so many ahadith that tells us about the permissibility of it, and Rasulullah ﷺ performed it himself, and he ordered others to do it, and he approved it and made it permissible. Al-masah on the khuffain is actually, like I said, it is an ease and removal of the burden upon the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Sahaba used to practice it, and it can be used whether you are traveling, or it can be done whether you are traveling or whether you are in town, whether you are journeying. And what invalidates al-masah on the khuffain, or the wudu that was performed by doing masah on the khuffain, is like what nullifies and invalidates al-wudu in general. So it can be used, for one, it can be used to perform al-wudu, which is the purity, achieving purity from the al-hadath al-asghar, from the minor impurity, right? So whatever you can make wudu with washing your hands to achieve purity, you can also make masah on the khuffain to do that, right? It is the mind to achieve purity from minor impurity. Obviously, from the conditions of it is that you should wear them while in a state of tahara. Yani you must have performed wudu with washing your feet, before you actually wear the khuf, and then later you can make masah on that. The khuf itself has to be pure. It cannot be impure, najis. It has to be pure in itself. Like I said, it can be used to achieve, masah on the khuffain can be used to achieve purity from the minor impurities. And also, and I don't know why this doesn't want to open at all. Also from the conditions is that you can make masah on the khuffain during the allowed period of time. You know that the masah on the khuffain is given a time, a time frame where it is allowed to make masah on the khuffain, and that is 24 hours period of time, a day and night from the time you make the first masah. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. If you are in town and 3 days and 3 nights, that's 72 hours, right? If you are journeying. And you notice that how Allah Azza wa Jal is so compassionate with this ummah, that if you're traveling, then you can actually make masah in one consecutively for 72 hours, for 3 days and 3 nights, because it is so hard and there's so hardship while traveling to actually take off the khuf or what you're wearing in your feet. Once the time frame expires, then you have, and if you need to renew your wudu or to do tahara again and make wudu again, then you have to take them off and make ghasl, washing of the feet again, to be able to make masah again after you wear the socks again or the khuffain again. We say that the time frame of the masah on the khuffain starts from the first masah you make after you nullified your wudu. By the way, this is one of the matters that a lot of people get lost in. You wear your khuffain, right? On tahara, obviously. So you made tahara, you made wudu, and you did put the khuffain on, right? The time frame, the 24-hour if you're in town, and the 72 hours if you're traveling, when do they start from? When does this time start from? Not from the time you made the wudu, nor is it the time, the start from when you actually put them on. That's not when they start. They start after you made the first masah on the khuffain, after you nullified your wudu. Let me give you an example of how that make a difference. Let's say, for example, in the morning you woke up, you made wudu with washing your feet, and then you put the khuffain on. And then you prayed dhuhr with it. You didn't nullify your wudu. You prayed dhuhr, for example, and after dhuhr, you had to go and relieve yourself. So you nullified your wudu. Now you need to do what? You need to make wudu, either immediately or for asr, for example. That is the time when it starts. Because this is the first time that you made masah after you nullified your wudu. Contrast that with another example, another scenario. Let's say, for example, you woke up in the morning. Obviously, you did wudu with washing your feet. You put the khuffain on, right? And then you, for example, prayed dhuhr with it, for example, and then you prayed asr with it. You didn't need to go and use the restroom, right? Now, after asr, you went and you relieved yourself, right? Now, I'm sorry, this is not what I wanted to do. Before dhuhr, you didn't need to use the bathroom or whatever. You didn't relieve, you didn't nullify your wudu. But you went ahead, and just because it is sunnah, you renewed your wudu for dhuhr, you didn't have to. And you made masah. And you prayed. Is this when the time starts? No. You see the difference, brothers and sisters? When you actually needed to renew your wudu because you relieved yourself, you nullified the wudu, and between the time when you actually renewed your wudu, just as a sunnah, as something that is recommended, but that was not mandatory for you to do that because you didn't nullify your wudu. When you make masah to achieve wudu or to do wudu, when you didn't have to, that doesn't start the countdown. The countdown starts from the time you make masah on the khuffain because you nullified your wudu. The first time, so the countdown starts. From that time, you have 24 hours. You can keep making masah for the next 24 hours. Now, you made masah for the next 24 hours. You kept making masah. You could do that, right? Now, just before the 24-hour period expired, you made wudu, you made masah, and then the time expired. The 24 hours came to an end. Does that mean at the 24-hour time frame that you lost your wudu is invalid? You say no. your wudu, you continued until you nullify your wudu. So even if the 24 hours period of time expired, that doesn't mean that your wudu expired. Remember, brothers and sisters, Rasulullah ﷺ timed the 24 hour for the masah, not for the validity of the wudu. You understand the difference? Yani, Rasulullah ﷺ said, if you are not journeying, if you are in town, from the first time you make, as we just described, from the first time you made masah, after you nullified your wudu, you have 24 hours to make masah. That's not timing of the validity of the wudu. So if you made wudu and made masah just before the 24-hour period expired, and then you kept your purity, your state of purity, tahara, you can pray several prayers after that, as long as you did not nullify. If you nullify your wudu, then you have to take off the shoes. You take off the khuf, and then you make wudu, and then you're okay to put them on again, and then you can make masah. You understand that? Right. If, for example, let me give you another example. Just these tiny things. You made masah on the khuf. You made wudu with masah on the khuf. If you take them off, does that nullify your wudu? Even within those 24-hour period of time. Or 72 hour if you're traveling. If, let's say, for example, you woke up in the morning, you made wudu, you made washing of the feet, you put the khuf on, and then at certain period of time, you nullified your wudu, and then you made wudu with masah. So the time starts. Right. After that, let's say 2 hours later, you took the socks off, or the khuf off. Is taking off the khuf invalidate the wudu? No. That's not one of the nullifiers of wudu. We did talk about that, by the way. So I'm not going to prove that. You can go back and reference it. But if you take the khuf off, that doesn't invalidate the wudu. So you can continue praying. You still have... This is much like, for example, when you go and make tawaf, right? If you go, for example, for umrah, right? And before you started the umrah, obviously, you need to make wudu. For the tawaf requires wudu. Right. You made wudu and you kept your purity. At the end, you need to shave your head. But you made masah on the hair. Does that nullify your wudu? You don't have the hair now. It's gone. Right? You shave. So the place of the masah is gone. Your wudu is still valid. That's not one of the nullifiers. We did mention all the nullifiers of the wudu. Shaving the head and taking the khuf off is not one of the nullifiers of the wudu. Right? So even if you take them off, now obviously you cannot make masah on them anymore. But I take that back. Unless you keep your purity. If you kept your purity and then you put them on without losing it, then you can continue masah. But the point is that if you take them off, it does not nullify your wudu. Clear? Right. That's with respect to in principle, masah on the khuffain. We said the khuffain is what you wear in your feet, or what you put on in your feet, made from leather. Now, we have a discussion of what is equivalent or kind of close to it. Now we have the socks. Right? For the most part of it, we wear socks that are made from wool or linen or fabric, whatever it is, right? They're not from leather. Can we do the same thing? Now, obviously, there are there's some people that go with the opinion that it is not permissible. And we did talk about that as well, and we said that actually the stronger opinion, the more plausible opinion, Rajih is that it is permissible and they are analogous to the leather khuf. Reason being, multiple things we can mention in here. For one, we say that why is the masah on the khuf is permissible? What is the reasoning, right? Why Allah Azza wa Jal, what is the wisdom behind it? We said because it is an ease from Allah Azza wa Jal. It is not because it is from leather. That's not the reasoning why Allah Azza wa Jal legislated it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated it as a lessening the burden upon the ummah, to make it easier and to make it easy upon the ummah so that they don't have to take them off every single time they need to make wudu. It's not easy, let's put it, especially in the winter, especially in the cold days. So this is the reasoning. Well, the same thing applies to the socks. The socks, you wear them and they are not easy to take them off. So the same thing applies to them. Add to that, there are so many Sahaba, from the big ones. We're talking Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abdullah ibn Umar, etc., etc. Yani the likes of them, who actually made masah on the socks. And none of the ones present during their time, they actually, for example, criticized them to do that they did this. So we know from this that it was permissible, and these are from the fuqaha of the Sahaba. Now, if we want to talk, some people talk about the madhab. We say, I am madhab Hanafi. I understand that. But we say, and I did talk about this before in the masjid in here, and since then I did even some more research, to be frank with you. And I came to a conclusion beyond the hint of doubt that madhab al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala is actually to allow al-masah on the socks. And this is the sayings of so many of the A'imma of al-Madhab, the scholars of al-Madhab, even including the two companions of Imam Abu Hanifa, the Imam Abu Yusuf and the Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani. Both of them, they used to see the permissibility of al-masah on the socks. And they did that, although it was contrary to what the Imam Abu Hanifa used to see. And they narrated, as a matter of fact, that toward the end of his life, when he got sick, he actually started to make al-masah on the socks, and he said, he said specifically, I am not doing what I used to say to people don't do. A lot of scholars, they said this is a clear indication that it is permissible. Otherwise, how would he do that and then pray? If it wasn't permissible, if he didn't see afterward that it is permissible to do that, he wouldn't do that. Otherwise, the prayer would not be accepted. It would be invalid. So the fact that he started to do that toward the end of his life means that he changed his view and then he saw that. I actually reviewed a lot of the books of specifically Madhab al-Imam Abu Hanifa, يعني الفقه الحنفي. Al-Imam al-Kasani and Al-Imam Hashiyat Ibn Abdin, one of the A'immat al-Madhab, and two others. There are so many of the A'imma. They said, who narrated that this is what the opinion of several of the A'immat al-Madhab al-Hanafi is with, and even Imam Ibn Abdin in his Hashiyah. It is famous, Hashiyat Ibn Abdin, one of the books. It is actually a huge book in multiple volumes. He said, وَعَلَيْهِ الْفَتْوَى. Yani this is what they used to give fatwa in the madhab with, according to that, the permissibility of making al-masah on the socks. So alhamdulillah, it is so clear and it is so obvious that this is the madhab and this is the fatwa of al-madhab al-Imam Abu Hanifa, that it is permissible. And I believe that this is actually also from the ease of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Other than that, there is absolutely no difference between the leather khuf and the fabric socks. So alhamdulillah, this is the opinion of madhab al-Imam Abu Hanifa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to that which is haqq and make us comprehend it and make us see it as such. And may Allah give us the tawfiq to apply it. إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد.